Good evening. We appreciate you. My name is Ellen Stevie. I'm the founder of New Balance Puppy Starter Kit. I would like to welcome everyone to this month's featured presentation sponsored by Boggier. If you're getting a puppy or know someone who is, the Puppy Starter Kit makes a great gift, and this month only, we are offering free shipping. Feel free to look around our website at the conclusion of the program. If you have any questions for this month, for tonight's presenter, please feel free to email us at ellen@newbowwow.com. That's ellen@newbowwow.com. Tonight's topic is housebreaking your puppy, going with the flow. And tonight's presenter is Dr. Elizabeth Boggier. She is the proud owner of Mountain View Veterinary Hospital in Rockaway, and her practice is known for the quality care and compassion. The hospital has been grateful for the opportunity to donate time and medicine to local rescue groups and shelters, allowing them to save thousands of pets each year. Congratulations. As one of the few hospitals in the area with advanced equipment, they strive to continue to offer modern medicine with old-fashioned compassion. Hi, Doc. How you doing tonight?
Oh, hi there, Ellen. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. I'm going to turn it over to you and get started. So welcome and thanks for being here.
Well, thank you. And I am excited to be speaking to you tonight and everyone out there. I have no idea how many people you are, but hopefully you are many. And we're going to talk about housebreaking. Because housebreaking is a challenging time in a new puppy owner's life, as you know, Ellen, having Yogi and having been through it yourself. And this is, of course, where your whole kit comes into play. You know, I did read your pamphlet in there on housebreaking too. And, you know, we run into a lot of problems when you have a brand new puppy and you're not quite sure where to start. You're sleep deprived, you know, the puppy's destroying your home, you're exhausted, and you're wondering, am I doing it right? And worse off, am I ruining my puppy? You know, you're not quite sure where to turn. And crate training goes back to the theory that dogs don't typically like to sleep where they have to urinate and defecate. So that is the reason why you need to have a crate that's neither too big nor too small. You want to make sure that it's a comfortable area for them to sleep in, but not so large that they can urinate and defecate, let's say, in the corner and then sleep in the other corner, and that's perfectly acceptable to them. You know, keeping your puppy in a crate when you're not around is pretty much encouraging them to hold it until it's a more convenient time for them to go outside rather than, you know, 2 o'clock in the morning when it's 14 degrees outside and you know, it's sort of the last thing you want to do. So let's talk a little bit about what you would do when you know, your puppy starts to whimper and bark and you know that it's time for him to go outside. And the longer you have your puppy, you'll recognize the difference between your simple whimpering like I just want attention and the whining like I really need to go out or I'm going to wind up peeing all over myself. So you take your puppy outside and you want to definitely make sure they're on a leash because after the first couple of weeks, you know, that puppy may just be a little bit nervous and sort of hanging out next to you, but as they become more confident, they're going to start taking off on you. So keep them on a leash, not very far away, no more than 2 feet or so, no retractable leashes here. You want to get rid of those for the moment, and set them right down, don't even talk to them. You know, that's what I'd recommend. Don't even get them engaged because at this point, distraction's a big issue. So hopefully, because they've been holding it, because they've been in the crate, they will immediately urinate. And then, yeah, you're the best puppy in the whole world, and, you know, lots and lots of verbal praise if you can. You know, treats, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but you need to figure out what's going to motivate your puppy. Then, this is the part you're not going to be happy with. You should technically wait a full 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Now, if you're in New Jersey in the middle of February, and I'm telling you you got to wait 2 minutes after your puppy pees, you're probably heading for the door. But
well, that's why I got Yogi in the springtime.
That's the good time to get a puppy. Yeah, that's the smart time to get a puppy. That 2-minute period is what prevents the puppy from peeing outside, and then he comes in and he starts to circle and then he poops on the floor. So you want to wait for, hopefully in that 2-minute time period, he or she has completely eliminated and they no longer, everything's sort of out of their system. They can come in, and if it's the middle of the night, hopefully go back to sleep. And if it's not the middle of the night, then go on and play and feed and whatever the circumstances may be. You definitely want to, at this point, let's say it's the morning. Let's back up a little bit. So you wake up in the morning, you take them outside as you're supposed to, like we just described, and after they urinate and or defecate, then you should be feeding at this point. Now that's going to stimulate something called a gastrocolic reflex, and that's going to encourage them to have a bowel movement if they haven't, perhaps have a second one. For any of you eating out there, I'm sure this isn't the conversation you were betting on. And then, so that means after you feed them, they have to go right back outside. Now we're looking at that whole 2-minute time period again. So much fun. But you wanted a puppy, and puppies are a commitment, so welcome to puppyhood. You go through a whole charade again, 2 minutes. You hopefully urinate, defecate, bring them back inside. Now after this sort of second cycle, you should be good for a while. A couple of hours. This little puppy should be running around and being happy and go lucky for quite some time. Now here's the part where people sort of fall off the wagon a little bit. You need to keep an eye on them, because the time that you can reprimand him or her is the time that you catch them in the act. If this puppy literally urinates or defecates on the floor in one spot and walks, 5 feet away, you can't yell at them. They don't know what they did. They do not make the association. You literally must catch them in the act in order to...
That's one of the things that I really, that was a good lesson for me as well, just because it applies, I think, just to the housebreaking, but also to other things, because you have to catch them in the act. So that could be the difference. Right.
Exactly.
Yes.
And we want to give them a lot of credit, and they're wonderful. My pet, I love my pets. But you cannot expect them to understand that we are yelling at them for something that perhaps they did 3 hours ago. You just can't. Which is the same reason why, if you do wind up yelling at them, they still love you 3 hours later. So this is why you can't have it both ways.
Can we figure out how to get our significant others to cooperate like that?
That's it. Well, then again, we don't neuter our significant others, so, that one, maybe we should reach another phone conference, perhaps on another day. So now, if you catch them in the act, yes, there can be some reprimands. I do not believe in rubbing their nose in it, and usually just a loud, sharp no or something to get their attention is sufficient. You need to just make sure that they've been startled, that they understand that there is a negative consequence to what they've done. Now, at this point, they need to go outside again. Now, here's the thing. They're probably not going to urinate. They're probably not going to defecate, so just set it on the floor. But you're sort of going through the same motions. Does that sort of make sense to you? Ellen?
It absolutely makes sense. It was one of the, I think one of the biggest lessons that I learned, having Yogi, and the experience is still very fresh in my mind, so to speak. Is consistency. You got to really pay attention, and it doesn't take long if you pay attention and really are consistent and let them know if they've done something wrong. If you got to catch them in the act. So to me, the lesson that I took from that, and I think what you're saying too, is that you've got to pay attention. You have to be consistent, and I think they catch on a lot quicker if you do that, and the training period isn't as long.
Exactly, and that sort of goes to my second point here, because there are many schools of thought when it comes to crate training, and not every dog responds to the crate. I once had I can't remember if it was a small dog, whether it was a Shih Tzu or a Pomeranian, but I do remember it was a small breed dog. And the dog literally would urinate and defecate in a crate and roll in it. A crate was not working for this dog. So 99% of the dogs may respond well to crate training, but you're still going to get that occasional dog who crate training is not the way to go. What you need to understand is if you're not going to be using a crate, just like you said, Ellen, that just means that it's going to take one heck of a lot longer for them to understand, excuse me, for them to understand what the positives and negatives are associated with urinating and or defecating in the house.
Well, what's an option to crate training? I don't even know that there are any.
Well, there is a trend right now for people using wee-wee pads, and it's actually a trend that's moving quite rapidly. My mother, for instance, she the one thing that was keeping her from getting another dog after she lost her large breed dog was the snow and ice living in New Jersey, and so I mentioned where there are people using wee-wee pads now and teaching them to urinate and defecate on the wee-wee pad. They also, believe it or not, hand to God, they're talking about dog litter that they do have for pets. I have one client who uses dog litter. She seems very happy with it, but that's the only one that I know of, at least the only one who will admit to it. So there must be a market for it, so perhaps it works for some people, and I'd be eager to speak with anyone if they do have it, because I'd love to educate clients about it. But wee-wee pad training is extremely popular. Here's what you need to understand about wee-wee pad training, though. You can't have it both ways. So if you decide to wee-wee pad train your dog from the get-go, you say, hey, you know what, it's the winter, I want to train to go outside in the spring because it's cold right now. That's going to be it's going to be a big pill to swallow. Very difficult to train a dog to now go outside who for the last 5 months you've been training to use a wee-wee pad. That can be very challenging.
I can see it maybe with a smaller dog, but I can't even imagine Yogi going on a wee-wee pad.
No. Definitely not a large breed dog. I don't think that's an option for a large breed dog. Not by any stretch.
Yogi's looking at me like right now thinking, are you kidding, Mom? It's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, there is also one other caveat here. For instance, one dog may find it perfectly acceptable if you have a blanket in the crate to urinate on the blanket and then stuff it up in a corner and sleep in the other corner. So sometimes in those dogs, you actually even have to take the blanket out. So you just sort of need to figure out what's going to work with your dog in your crate. Which can be a little bit frustrating, but not impossible, not by any stretch.
Okay.
Now, the next thing people want to know is, well, how long is this going to take? And how long is too long? How long do you feel like is it going to be, do I consider it going to be a problem? Well, I think you can agree, Ellen, about 2 to 3 weeks, do you think? Really, right? 2 to 3 weeks?
Yeah, well, I'm probably not a good example because I didn't know. I sort of didn't know what I was doing. Hence, I created the puppy starter kit because I didn't want people to have to go through what I went through. Yeah, we took longer because I was one of those that didn't really like the crate. I thought, my goodness, and then what I would do is I would actually leave him in a a gated off area in the kitchen. And sure enough, you can see him poop in there, but, it was one of those situations where you needed to train the trainer. It wasn't him, it was me. So
Right.
If I had this information and knew you earlier on, I wouldn't have went through the challenges, and I think 2 or 3 weeks sounds right, but for cases like us, for me, it was a little bit longer.
Yeah, I do think 2 to 3 weeks you really should have the overwhelming majority, a good 70 to 80% of dogs, pretty well housebroken. And what I mean by pretty well housebroken is certainly stools outside and the occasional urinating in the house. And when I say occasional, that's like the puppy that you've been playing with and all of a sudden you just forgot and, urinated maybe once or twice, and you realize it's, as you said, user error, so to speak.
Right.
You just sort of missed it. I do think the overwhelming majority of reasons why people have problems with housebreaking is because people feel badly about using the crate. They start to whine and they hate it and they think it's mean, and it's really not. It's, we do something called anthropomorphize. We attach feelings to the pet that they really aren't trying to exhibit to us. That puppy is crying because, yes, it wants to be with us. But in the long term, if you are being a little bit more strict with the crate, in the long run, you're going to be a lot happier person. I'm struggling with a client right now who has a Yorkie, and it's difficult when you have a household where you have a boyfriend and a girlfriend, and you have one person in the household who's strict with the crate and one who is not, because the dog gets mixed signals. So I got the two of them in the room together, and I said, I just want you to understand that my mom had a dog who would, poop in the house for 17 years of the dog's life. Is that what you want? Because if that's what you're okay with, using lily pads, if that's what you're okay with, then all right. But let's make sure that that's what we're clear about now before we get to the point of no return. Because trying to turn a dog around at 2 to 3 years of age is not going to happen. Or at least not without a great deal of self-restraint.
Right, and I think one of the important things, too, is that before you bring the puppy home, and you and I spoke about this, is to do a little research to understand. That's something I would suggest, something that I didn't do. All of a sudden I have this puppy, now I got to figure out this housebreaking. But if I had done a little bit of reading and understood what it was about, we would have gotten off on a better foot. So, I think we talked about, going to the mall and getting a pair of shoes and coming home with, a 15-year, or you said, actually I think you said 18-year commitment.
Yeah.
And you're totally unprepared for housebreaking, because and you don't really you look at the crate, you don't realize that that's their home, they like that, but it's really all about training the trainer. I really honestly think mostly it's the people's fault, not the dogs.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, I do have to agree with you, because we're at a circumstance where when clients call up and we get that dreaded phone call, and we get them often, which is why we're having this conversation right now, that says, having trouble housebreaking. It's that phone message that we see every single week. And I ask people the same question. Do you think it's you, or is it the dog? Because I'm trying to identify, is this a medical problem? Because medical issues do occur, and I'm going to tell you some horror stories that's going to make your hair curl. Or is it because you are not catching the dog signals, or you're letting him run amok all over the house, and he's just peeing and then running away from it, and you have no clue? Because if that's the circumstance, boy, it's time to start corralling that little puppy dog and getting him under control.
Well, I'd be curious to know what's the majority of the answer on that.
Yeah, actually, most people are pretty honest. They really are. And I think perhaps it's the way that it's worded, because they usually pause and they say, I think it's me. And then that opens up the dialogue, which is nice. Lifestyle comes into play as well. If you have a busy household with maybe, several children in the home, that can be real challenging. It's not impossible, but it can be challenging because the kids let the puppy out. I have a 6- and 7-year-old, so I can certainly understand how that can be. They let the puppy out of the crate, they're not watching the dog pees on the floor. Oh, how frustrating is that? Or if you're a busy couple and you work, 12 to 14 hours a day, that's very frustrating too. Sure, you have a pet sitter perhaps come in and let him out, but still, it can be very frustrating. So, but not impossible. There's ways around everything. There are a bazillion ways to get around things. It's just you have to be creative.
Right.
So I think the last thing we should sort of mention before we, get on to maybe some questions are, when do we think it's a problem? And you touched on a lot of good points. Training the trainer is very important, and making sure that we can identify, are you doing, I don't want to say everything that we say, because that just sounds terrible, doesn't it? But, are you using the guidelines that we're giving you effectively? And if they are, then we start going, is this pet drinking too much water? Now, if the pet's drinking too much water, there's a couple of reasons for that. Particularly water dogs, labs, dogs who typically like to hang or big swimmers, they sometimes lap the water, and they'll see it move, and they see the ripples in the water, and they go, that's fun. So then they drink, and before you know it, they're peeing all over the place. Now, that's the dog where you're cleaning up the pee, and you go, it's not even yellow. So that's the dog who's drinking far too much water. And again, the overwhelming majority of the time, that's simply you're just giving too much water. I am not typically a fan of restricting water in puppies, particularly during the summer months, but the rule of thumb is approximately 1 ounce per pound per day. So if you have a 15-pound puppy, that puppy should be drinking approximately 15 ounces of water a day. I usually give or take several ounces to just, make sure that he's not playing roughly and really needs to get a little bit of extra water, if you know what I mean. But if your dog is drinking 25 ounces of water a day and he's a 15-pound dog, either number one, he's just doing it because he's having funsies, or he's doing it because he could have a very serious underlying medical condition. I have several dogs in the practice right now with a condition called diabetes insipidus. And that's a condition where neurologically in the brain there's a defect in the brain that actually it's pituitary that's telling the dog to drink far too much water. That is a very serious condition, and they drink, and literally cannot stop drinking. Then there's diabetes mellitus, which is the one that people think about where you give insulin injections, completely different type of diabetes from the other one I mentioned. And there's plain old obsessive compulsive. High-strung breeds can sometimes be prone to this. A little bit less common, but certainly out there. And then I'm just going to mention this because I've seen it happen with my own eyes. I had a little boxer who came into us for a spay. And, most veterinarians either require or recommend pre-anesthetic lab work prior to a spay, and most dogs are doing just fine. Well, this client hadn't done the blood testing on her dog. We spayed the dog, and everything was fine. Actually, we didn't spay it, another hospital did. About a year and 2 months or so, the dog was just drinking a lot of water. Turns out the dog had had a urinary tract infection when it was a puppy. Would always drink a lot of water, and the urinary tract infection ascended into the kidneys and caused irreversible kidney damage. And now the dog is in kidney failure, and she's 2 or 3 years of age. Now that is a weirdo, oddball, never seen it, probably never going to see it again type case, but urinary tract infections can occur in puppies, but 90% of the time it's humans, it's us. They get too much water, or we aren't washing them, that sort of thing. So if you are concerned, ask your veterinarian. That's where I'm going to go ahead and leave it at, because I wouldn't want anyone to wind up with a situation like that poor boxer was.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Wow.
Yeah, real oddball, but I saw it happen, so I want to make sure.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's, I think that's really about it. I think it's mostly just watching, keeping them confined in the crate, and being consistent. Consistency is key.
Well, I learned that the hard way, so. Absolutely.
Well, Yogi's a better dog now.
Excuse me?
I said Yogi's a better dog now because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, absolutely. I'm a better parent now too. we sort of figured it out together, But
that's what's great about your.
Go ahead.
Pardon? I was going to say that's what's great about your kit, because you have the leash there, which I like, because it's not the retractable. I don't think any puppy should be on a retractable. They shouldn't be on a retractable until they're well trained. So, having them on that, I think it's a 5 or 6 foot leash is important. You have small water bowls, which is a good idea because you want to measure exactly how much water that they're ingesting. Of course, you have the carpet cleaner because they're going to have accidents. Come on. I mean, as perfect as we think our puppies are, they're not 100% perfect. So it's actually a really good idea to go ahead and put all that in one spot.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that was sort of my thinking is, my vision is, puppy under one arm, kit in the other, and you're off to a good start. So, and it really comes from the School of Hard Knocks. I learned what not to do, you know, so I want people not to make those same mistakes. So I appreciate that.
Yeah,
but anyway,
the best ideas people do.
We got lots of great questions. I think you've answered a lot of them, too, so that's a good thing.
Sorry, I blabber.
Yeah, you know, you took all the, all these questions, I think you just answered them, you know, so it's awful.
Well, this is where my new puppy visits run over usually a good 10 or 15 minutes and put me far behind.
What did you say? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
I said this is why my new puppy visits usually put me 10 or 15 minutes behind.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I'd be afraid to open it up to the crew. You know, that's the reason that we do that is because, you know, are you with me?
Yep.
Okay. I guess we're getting feedback. You know, the technology, right? It's great when it works. But anyway, just to get to a couple of the questions, I know you talked about basically the size of the crate should be, a puppy should be able to turn around once. Is that the idea?
Exactly. Stand up, turn around, and lie down, and that's pretty much it. So if you have a puppy who's going to be growing on you, you definitely want to get one of those ones that can be made bigger or smaller. If you don't, or if you go to one of those sites like Free Cycle or any of these, or if you got a crate from someone and the divider is gone, you can throw some basketballs in there or anything to just make it much smaller than it should be. Just please be very careful. If you're going to be putting anything in that crate, you need to make sure that it isn't something that puppy's going to chew up and wind up becoming obstructed on or getting sick on.
Right. Okay. That's a great suggestion as far as, because that's, most people, they don't think ahead. So, you get the crate, you think I'm good, then you realize, oh no, he's going to grow, and I need to be able to expand it. And so it's nice to be able to, get one crate that will help you for, for months instead of just,
Right.
maybe weeks or so. So, and one of the questions that we have is that apparently what is happening with their puppy is the puppy is turning around, and so it seems to be the appropriate size. But then they won't go outside. They come back in, and they are going in their crate.
Okay. Well, you sort of have to go back to a couple things. If the crate, does the crate have a blanket in it? If it does have a blanket in it, you have to take it out. If the crate has papers in it, the puppy may find it completely appropriate to take papers, poop on them, and then crush them up into a ball and push it over to the side. I've unfortunately had some clients who I've had to tell them to put their puppy in a crate with nothing, and it breaks my heart, but it's temporary until you make him or her understand that, well, you need to hold it for as long as you possibly can. So perhaps those are a few things that they might be able to try if they haven't already.
Right.
Oh, another thing that they might be able to try is try feeding the puppy in the crate. Dogs also don't like to urinate and defecate where they eat. So even if we feed them in there and even leave the empty food bowl in the crate, I have heard on occasion that has had an effect too. So anything to prevent them from urinating or defecating in the crate.
Okay. Okay. And then I guess, the one thing that we all, need to remember as puppy owners is that every puppy is different. You really can have things that work for the majority, but you're definitely going to have your situations where it doesn't work for everybody, So you need, like you said, you need to be creative.
Oh my gosh. I'll never forget that one puppy. It would just flip around in its own poop. I've never seen anything like it. I was like, forget it, let him out.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Oh, please, thank God I can get that puppy. I don't know today.
God bless him. I mean, it was just tearing the couple apart. It broke my heart. I'm like, oh my gosh. Good Lord.
It's phenomenal. Oh, that's unfortunate for them. Another question is, apparently this person, when they would take their puppy outside, they would do the appropriate 20 minutes and they wouldn't pee or poop. You'd bring them back in and sure enough they'd go.
if they do not go, and you know they have to go when they're outside, and they're sort of looking at you, and you're looking at them like, I know you have to go, and they're looking at you like, look at how cute I am. Your best bet at that point is to bring them back inside, put them back in the crate. You know what? Even if they just spend 5 hours in that crate, you put them back in the crate because you know that they're holding it. And unfortunately, it's a little bit of a game. Try it again in another half an hour. But you're forcing them to hold it. So give that a whirl.
Have you had much luck, or do you have any experience with those pads that you put outside that apparently are supposed to attract the dog? And if you're trying to, grow grass or, grow your grass back, in my case, is, where they are attracted to just pee in that spot. Do those work?
The pads or the tablets?
I guess either one. Is there a solution to that?
If you could find a solution to that whole grass burning thing, you'll be a multimillionaire. Unfortunately, the tablets and the oral medications that you are giving pets to not burn the grass are changing their urine pH. And the problem with changing a pet's urine pH is that you are causing an abnormal chemical reaction to occur, and you're putting them at risk for crystals in the urine and or a stone development in the bladder. So it is a pain, but unfortunately there isn't too much you can do besides overwater your lawn or teach them to urinate in another area, unfortunately.
So I don't quite understand that. So you're saying that when the dog pees, it's changing their pH, but they're not ingesting any chemical, or is it a chemical that the smell? Is that how they're ingesting it?
Well, if you're giving them the tablets, they'll sell products over the counter for burning the grass.
Oh no, I wasn't suggesting that. I thought you meant like tablets, like a little piece of wood, or like a tablet, a physical tablet that they would pee on.
No. Yeah, no. No,
Okay.
I mean, if you could encourage them to go, that's the only, unfortunately, I don't have anything in my bag of tricks other than encouraging them. And believe me, my dogs destroyed my lawn, absolutely destroyed it. No grass, bye-bye. Put down sod, bye-bye. They're nice for a year. If you could find something better, I would be happy to explore it.
Okay, well that's what we can work on together, Doc. Is we can come up with a solution so we can all have greener grass. How's that sound?
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yeah, I look out there all the time, and I say I used to have such a nice backyard, and then I look at him, and it's worth it.
Exactly. He's worth it.
He's totally worth it. Let's see. Got a bunch of them. Now, as far as the crate, how many crates would you say you need to purchase in the life of a dog? Is it like 3? Is there like a small and a medium and then the bigger one? Is that about right? Or can you do those expandables to, last for those, do they expand enough to, or can they accommodate us, when they're small, when they're a puppy, to when they're full grown?
You know what? Crate people have gotten very smart. The people who have developed them have become very, very wise. And if you purchase a new crate, the one that has the divider, you should be able to have that crate for the life of the puppy. No doubt about it. Now, if you're trying to be cost conscious, which I'm always a fan of being as rural as you can be, there are lots of people who have old crates or carriers, or there's all kinds of stuff laying around. I just wish there were a better site or a better area for people to be able to connect with one another to say, hey, I have a crate that you can use, or you're welcome to have, or you can have for $50 or even $25, or just come and pick it up. That's why I was mentioning that free cycle. They always have kind of things on there, but usually there's no charge for it. It's just you have to pick it up. But there's definitely crates out there, and it breaks my heart to see things go to waste. So, but one crate should be sufficient for the life of the pet, no doubt.
It does get expensive.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I just bought a crate for Elmer, and it was like, I think it was $110.
Yeah.
You know, and but it came with the divider, and just looking at the way that it is created, it's the first new crate, because I always had the leftovers from the hospital, you know, the old stuff. It's the first new crate that I've purchased ever. And they're fantastic. They finally wised up, or maybe I just finally just purchased one. But yeah, definitely usable.
Right. Well, that's actually one of the things that, you know, I talk about in the book as well, is that, you know, when you're thinking about getting a puppy, that one of the things that you need to think about is the commitment, and the commitment to not only spending time with your puppy and exercising, but there's a cost factor. There's, you know, it gets very expensive, so that's something that, you know, between, you know, the grooming and the training, and it's always good to be prepared with that stuff. I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't think people fully comprehend the cost that is involved with owning a pet, from feeding. From a feeding standpoint, you know, quality diets cost money, and you know, they're expensive. And the better quality food, the more expensive it is. That's just and not that every, you know, diet that's usually expensive is the best diet that's on the market, but, you know, they are expensive. Toys, like you said, grooming, it all comes into play. And when we talked about you go into the mall and you walk out with an 18-year investment, it's a huge, huge commitment that I just don't think people fully comprehend until, I don't know, perhaps after their first veterinary visit, you know. That's usually when I hit them on the face.
Yeah,
Now,
exactly.
No, they can rescue dogs.
People will be people, that's for sure.
That's true. And they love their puppies.
You need to tune into these kinds of presentations so they can be better equipped, right?
Exactly. The intelligent puppy owner is the good puppy owner who's prepared.
Right.
And one day, perhaps, maybe we should do, you know, I've done a lot of talks on first aid and preparedness, and, you know, there's so many things out there that people should just be aware of, so you know what to do in the event of an emergency. So be prepared. It's a good thing.
You know what? I think we pretty much answered I think you pretty much answered most of the questions during your presentation, and then the ones that were sort of left that weren't answered we've covered. But I was curious too when you and I talked, and I was actually just reading your bio. If we can just get off the beaten path a little bit, and your specialty is cancer treatment.
Well, I definitely have a special interest in it. You know, long before my own dog got bone cancer, you know, I don't think it's necessarily that we see more cancer, but I think we're better at diagnosing it. So living in New Jersey, we're very fortunate to be able to have a lot of diagnostics at hand, and people are very good at allowing us to be able to work up a case. So I think we see a large majority of different types of cancers, and we're fortunate to be able to have clients who are able to allow us to treat those cancers. And it's a lot of the cases, believe it or not, can do very well. And I think that's wonderful. I really do. But I'm always honest with people. Not all cancers are going to have or have the potential to have a really good outcome. Some of them are more aggressive than others, and I always try to be as honest with them as I know how. But, you know, every pet is a little different. So some pets may do better, some may do far worse.
But that's something that you do in your practice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we do lots of chemotherapy. We do, you know, I actually enjoy it quite a bit. It's tremendous. It's absolutely tremendous. When you see a pet, I think one of my favorite cases is a 3-year-old dog that we saw for lymphoma. Oh my gosh, it must be 6 or 7 years now. She was diagnosed. She was so sick when we saw her. She had tumors in her chest and her abdomen the size of softballs. And we immediately started on chemotherapy once we had the diagnosis, and we concluded the treatment, and she's been in complete remission ever since. I mean, she's just amazing. Yeah, I mean,
wow,
it's incredible. It's really incredible. So, it's those cases that keep you going. It really is.
Now, if people wanted to get more information, about your practice, what's your website? I don't know it off the top of my head. Could you share it with us?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sure. It's rockawayvet.com. And, the site is pretty neat. It has a lot of healthcare information as well as pet care videos. Our Facebook page, too, we try to keep those updated as possible. I try not to keep it too technical, more jokes and words and educational videos if at all possible. But, yeah, we try to be pretty good with education, as you can tell.
Well, I think you're really, and I loved it. It was a very, very cozy feeling, really clean, and your staff is super. So, whatever you're doing, just keep it up.
Well, thank you. Thank you. The people at the hospital are just amazing. They are true. I cannot say enough about them. I'm the most fortunate person on earth. I just have the most amazing people to be able to work with. It's a great place. It really is.
Good, good.
I'm so lucky.
In conclusion, what would be, maybe like one or two things, and it doesn't necessarily need to be related to our topic this evening, but as a new puppy owner, what advice, if I came in and I said, I'm thinking about getting a puppy, what do I need to know? What would be the one or two things that you would share with somebody about about being a new puppy mom or dad?
Now, you're telling a jabberjaws like me, really something like that in conclusion? Are you kidding me?
One or two, Doc. Okay, one or two, okay?
Well, I think that the first thing would be do your very best to try to educate yourself about the breed or predominant breed and know sort of what you're getting into. For instance, if you're getting a Jack Russell Terrier or a Jack Russell Terrier mix, you need to understand that they're pretty active dogs. They're going to need a lot of exercise. And then the other thing is you need to understand the commitment, both emotional, financial, and the time commitment, because it's enormous. However, it's so worth it. I think you can agree, Ellen. I mean, the unconditional love is so worth it.
I can't believe how much I love my dog. It's amazing to me. So a lot of you people out there are, our listeners may be longtime doggy owners, but it's still, I've had Yogi for about 2.5 years, and I'm in awe of how much I love him. It's amazing. It's just a fabulous relationship, and I highly recommend it for anybody, but I think what you're saying, Doc, is just be prepared.
Exactly. And know that there's help out there. Try not to get frustrated. There's help out there. There's people who will help you. Try not to get too frustrated. We've all been there, and there's people who will help.
Absolutely, and they can feel free to reach out to either you or I, and I think we between the two of us, we could figure it out, right?
Exactly. There's nothing that's insurmountable, ever. We can figure it out.
Well, listen, it has really been a pleasure. I've enjoyed the conversation, and we've got a lot of great questions, and I hope you'll be back. And, we do this every month. Last month we had, and that's actually how I found my way to you, is Linda Schiller from the 11th Hour Rescue.
Yeah, that's a great group. They're a great group. They really are.
She did
They've done tremendous, they do tremendous things for those guys, let me tell you. What a great group.
Right, and then the month before we had Lou Olson, who spoke about, basically canine diet, so that was really interesting. So we appreciate you coming tonight or to being here, and I will let you have the rest of your evening to yourself, maybe grab some dinner or whatever. I think
no problem.
A glass of wine and cheese, I think,
yes. Yes. That's what I will be headed toward. Thank you very much, Ellen.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. Take care. Have a nice evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.